TheJbeans.net.
We sailed on the MSC Seashore for 7 nights in December 2024. If you follow these 11 tips, you'll likely enjoy sailing on her as much as we did. Just a quick note that if you enjoy this video, please give us a thumbs up or leave a comment. It really helps our channel. And consider subscribing so you get alerted when we add new videos. Our first tip is to try to be prepared for delays with the ship's smart elevators. The Seashore's elevator system was designed to group guests heading to the same decks, but it often directed too many people to each elevator. This led to overcrowding, which forced guests to skip boarding and restart the process. During our cruise, we saw many passengers who were visibly frustrated with the consistently long waits and full elevators. Our next tip is to be aware that both of the main elevator bays have 2 sets of elevators, with 4 elevators on the port side or left side of the ship, and 4 elevators on the starboard side or right side of the ship. During our cruise, we noticed that one set of elevators was usually a bit less crowded than the other set. Our third tip is to head toward the aft section of the Seashore's Marketplace Buffet on Deck 16 if you need to find some available seating. During our cruise, the aft section of the buffet was significantly less crowded than the other sections. Speaking of the buffet, we have a few more quick tips to make your dining experience even more enjoyable. Reach for a coffee mug instead of a cup when getting a drink at the buffet. The coffee mugs held more drink than the small plastic cups, and the handle on the coffee mug made it easier to carry. Look for cookies in the buffet in the late afternoon. During our cruise, cookies were available from 4 o'clock to 5:30 daily, and it was the only time cookies were available on the buffet. Finally, check the signage above the food for allergen information. During our cruise, information for egg, pork, gluten, milk, peanuts, and more was available. Our next tip is to check out the Seashore's main dining room for embarkation lunch and for disembarkation breakfast. During our cruise, the Central Park restaurant was open for embarkation day lunch from noon to 1:30 p.m. And the restaurant was significantly less crowded than the buffet, which is where the crew were appointing guests. The same restaurant was also open for breakfast on disembarkation day from 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m., which was a much more relaxing way to enjoy our final meal on the ship. Our fifth tip is to head to Brooklyn Cafe on Deck 8 midship if you just want a quick bite for breakfast. During our cruise, the Seashore's Cafe had a complimentary continental breakfast available each morning, including pastries, donuts, yogurt, and more. Coffee, orange juice, and pineapple juice were also available. And if you're just looking for a pastry, head to the Seashore Bar in the atrium on Deck 6 midship. Both sides of the bar had complimentary pastries available each morning. Our next tip is to sign a waiver for both kids and adults in your party who want to ride the water slides on the Seashore. Since the waivers could not be completed prior to embarkation, we made it a point to sign them when we boarded, to avoid any lines. Our seventh tip is to make sure you arrive early to the shows at Le Cabaret Rouge. The venue, which was located on Decks 6 and 7 aft at the back of the ship, was home to Showtime at the Rouge, karaoke, and several other activities. During our cruise, we noticed that seating filled up well before the event started, and the remaining spots often had severely obstructed views. If you enjoy live music reviews, showtime at the Rouge was, by far, our favorite entertainment on the cruise. Since the show changed nightly, we returned to enjoy it several times. Speaking of entertainment venue seating, our next tip is to make sure you're aware of the seating options available in the Madison Theater. The venue mostly featured individual cushioned chairs of various widths. The chairs had shared armrests and shared drink holders that always seemed to be too small to actually hold a drink. Companion seating was available at the front of the theater, which could be accessed through the Deck 6 entrances. Thankfully, the theater didn't have any obstructions, so all seats provided a good view of the stage and entertainment. Our ninth tip is to keep an eye out for the perfect spots to capture some great social media shots on the seashore. Some of our favorite locations included the neon-lit reflective tunnel with a sci-fi vibe on Deck 7 aft, the hot air balloon gondola with the fun LED screen background that was also on Deck 7 aft, the glass-bottom infinity bridges on either side of Deck 8 midship, the infinity pool walkway on Deck 8 aft, including a great photo op of the back of the ship from the end of the walkway, the glass-bottom bridge of size on Deck 16 aft, with a photo taken from the back of Deck 18, and the Swarovski crystal staircases in the atrium between Decks 5 and 8, midship. Our next tip is to be aware that the Seashore does not have a Deck 17. Many cruise lines skip having a Deck 13 due to superstition, but MSC follows Italian traditions, which means they skip having a Deck 17 on their ships. Our 11th and final tip is to be aware that the odd-numbered staterooms are located on the port side or left side of the Seashore. To help us remember this, we thought of the word port as being an acronym for plenty of odd rooms there.